Hi, everyone. Welcome to our QualiWare user group meeting for May. My name is Cecile, and I'd like to welcome you to our meeting. So our agenda for today, we are going to go through CloseReach news. Kevin has some updates on some activities at CloseReach, some training, and some other exciting things that he wants to tell you about. Then we have Anthony Bianco joining us. He's a senior business analyst at CloseReach. He's going to talk about a project portfolio management solution that we have developed for a client. If you were here before I started the introduction to this meeting, you might hear who it was for. Then we have Brenda Cowie joining us. Brenda was on the meeting last month while I was away. Brenda has an extensive experience in the EA industry, and she's going to talk to us about EA trends and use cases. And then we have time at the end for the open forum questions. And we'll talk about the agenda for next meeting, and we'll actually talk about a change in the date for next meeting, rather than it being the 30th of June, which is the day before Canada Day, and most people would take that off. We're going to do that meeting the week before on the 23rd of June. So Kevin, I am ready to turn it over to you to do CloseReach news, and you can get started.
So we have some events coming up, but it's next week. We'll be down at the Convention Center for the Apex Leadership Conference. So that if any of your EXs or any of you who are EXs that are going to that, if you want to direct them to our booth, we can show them what we're doing with the different government departments. We're repeating what we did last year, which is you scan and we donate. So we have a QR code there that anybody who comes up at the conference and scans that will generate an email on their phone, and we will make a donation on their behalf to the Royal Ottawa. So rather than giving out pens or little stress balls or things that get lost, we'd rather do something like this. And we donate to the PTSD clinic. So that supports people from D&D as well as first responders and others that suffer from PTSD. So if you're there, or if someone you know is attending, please have them drop by. The week after that, I am in Halifax, actually, on the harbor. They have a marine-based demonstration day. So we're going to sit Leslie and Bruce out in a small rowboat with a copy of QualiWare on a big monitor. No. We'll be there demonstrating management systems and ISO and QualiWare and how that can be used for organizations that are growing in the Cove incubator or that are involved in fisheries and oceans kinds of activities that are attending this thing. So anyhow, we'll be there on the 12th. So today you're going to hear about our project portfolio management solution that I was talking about a little bit earlier, and I will say who that was for. It was for D&D. A flip side of that, however, is vendor management, because part of this project portfolio management had to do with procurement and managing things from a very early business case stage right through to delivery of the products. And all through that is our vendor management components. So we're taking that scenario and building it out into more of a vendor management situation, which we see a lot of people using spreadsheets to do that stuff. Do it in QualiWare. Training updates. Our calendar's been updated. So check there for courses. Actually, we just ran QCL last week, right?
Mm-hmm, that's correct.
Yeah, we have more coming. Business architecture, we're in Halifax again, September 15th to 17th. The province of Nova Scotia is going to be our anchor client, and we're looking to have others there. We have some new products around business architecture. So we're actually combining, separate and combined. We have separate Roger Burleton business architecture architecture training, we're standing up some new coaching products. So that coaching can occur over a period of time for your executives or for whoever. And, or you can combine the two at some advantageous pricing. So all of that will be, if it's not already there, it will be up in the next week or so on our website. And it's a way of, I guess, taking advantage of the expertise that we have here in Canada, in Roger Burleton and, the Process Renewal Group in the business architecture space. And they've done a lot of work with government organizations and with management in those organizations. So that coaching side of things will be there. Our website has undergone some extensive revamp work. And if you go to the website now and look in the solutions area, you will see a lot more information about ways to use QualiWare and how we are delivering on those things. And if you follow our company page on LinkedIn, we've got a lot of blog and EA trend information going up there. A lot of information from our blog, a lot of information in EA trends. You're going to hear a little bit of that from Brenda today. And anyhow, please follow us, and we'd appreciate it. So our government-wide contract is coming to a close. Under that contract, departments were able to buy QualiWare software at a very advantageous price. And we were also able to move that if a department purchased more than they had needed at a time, we were able to move that to other departments. That's about to come to a close in 5 days, May 31st. So right now we do have architect and collaboration licenses where we have had a customer who says, I don't need this many licenses. So we can offer them to other departments for the cost of the outstanding maintenance and support. So that's essentially 20% of what it would cost you to acquire a new license. If you're interested in learning more, you need to contact Cecile, and she will fill you in on that. But all of that goes away on May 31st when the 16099 contract goes away. For future acquisitions then, we'll be using the SALSA. So the software licensing supply arrangement, as well as the cloud SaaS environment. So both of those are in place to allow us to continue to deliver software and cloud-based environments. On the services side, TBIPs, SBIPs, TSPS, all of those standardized vehicles. Anyhow, QualiWare, we're still waiting for so everybody's wondering about 1010. We don't have a date for that yet. Sorry. But starting with version 1010, the simulation tool that we have, Collaborative Business Planning, which was built by Mike Haley, Bob Bovair, and other parties, and is used to model and simulate resourcing, costs, people costs, all of those, and look at efficiency and effectiveness of your processes to lean them down. That will actually be available as a built-in add-on to QualiWare. So you can add that to your existing environment when version 1010 comes out. So again, interested in finding out more, please reach out to Cecile or myself.
Okay. Next up is my colleague, Anthony. And I'm assuming Anthony is here, even though I can't see him. You're there. There you are. Okay, great. Where are you? I can't see you.
My camera's on.
Oh, there. There you are. No,
Yep.
you're on a different slide. You're on a different screen. All good. All right. Everybody, this is Anthony Bianco, Senior Business Analyst at CloseReach. Anthony has been involved in developing this solution for a client around project portfolio management. And I strong-armed him today into spending a little bit of time to show us what they've done, because we think it's a great solution and the client seems very happy. And we think that you will think it's amazing too. So, Anthony, I am going to turn it over to you and let you start sharing.
So just a preface, this is a bit of a skeleton of the solution, as the prior solution was full of live data. So we wanted to show some of the core functionality that we've developed to help organizations track all of their projects and report on it. So something like this would be helpful to an organization that has a lot of project intake and a lot of projects to track, and doesn't want everything in different places. So you have your system with all your projects, and then you want to report on them, but those reports need to be generated, then sent out. And as well as that, the projects, for example, are not exactly governed. They're sent into a certain database, and then someone has to go in and make a change or make a comment. So first step was getting projects under governance. So QualiWare has governance workflows for a wide range of objects, like change management for projects, or document management, or corrective actions. So in this case, we developed a governance workflow for projects, and a way to actually take in those projects right into the system. So you'll see here I have the desktop set up, and I just want to leave the compliance and process management desktops here, just to let everyone know that, once you start using QualiWare to manage your projects, it doesn't mean the other management stops. We can still continue managing our compliance and our processes and our risk, and the management of our projects is just an add-on. So first things first, we are going to create a project. And here I have the out-of-the-box project attributes for you to fill out. So I'll fill out just a few of them. So I'll name this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, something simple. Short description: roofs need placing on units 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Reason: hailstorm in May. There kind of was a hailstorm a couple weeks ago. So another thing we'll fill out, and remember, this is totally flexible. We can make this form say whatever attribute we want. So for the details, or for organization, I'm going to add a project manager. So I'll add myself, and a project organization, and that'll be Rental South. I'm just going to admit GR there. Okay, so from here, we're just going to say okay. And now, because I'm the project manager and I've assigned it to myself, I'm going to find it in here. And right here. So AA 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And here is now the initial page of my project, where I can find all of the details on one page. And I'm just going to go up to the right-hand corner, and I'm going to hit this exclamation mark, and that's going to show me the automated workflow, or at least the example of one. So we're starting with, so the originator creates the proposal, and it's going to go over to an approver. So that can be a director for acceptance. And then it's going to go for environmental screening. So I just made an example step, so environmental screening, and that's another little functionality that we've created here. So QualiWare is able to store documents and manage documents, but we found a way, if you have a form that needs to, let's say, always be completed during every project, we developed sort of a quicker way so that users can fill it out without having to even go to another page in QualiWare. So I'm going to send this for send to director for review. The director is able to edit and leave their comments, and the director is going to say keep price under, did I say 5 roofs under 220,000. I'll say they're big homes. Ready, apply. And again, the director's comments are captured right here. So as this is going through the automated workflow, your project is being updated with all of the relevant information that the next person would need. So then the project director says proceed with project. And here we come to the environmental questionnaire. So you'll see beside the project information, we have environmental questionnaire with 4 example questions. So as the project manager, I'm going to select complete environmental questionnaire. And these questions come up for me. So you'll see that a user does not need to go to another document. They can just fill it out right from the project page. So will there be a land disturbance? Yes. Could their project impact local wildlife? Yes. Will the project generate hazardous materials or waste? Hope not. Could the project result in increased emissions? Yes. And then I can set an environmental authority. So this could be an organization. This could be a mailbox, but for this example, say we'll assign to me. I'm also the environmental authority, and we say okay. So you'll see that now the environmental questionnaire is actually attached to the project just from a click away. I don't need to open an external document in this case. I can just come right here and I can see all the details of the environmental questionnaire. So when I send it to the authority for review, they of course also have that questionnaire right here for them. So it's just making some additional use out of the content tabs that QualiWare provides and using them in an operational way, I guess you could say. So again, this can fit as many forms. If a project requires 5 different forms to be filled out throughout its life cycle, all those forms can be put right here across the top. So for the example, this is where our automated workflow ends. I just have this approve button right here. And again, if let's say there's information here that is, or as the authority, I think needs more review, I can create a function in here that allows me to send it back to the project manager with my comments or asking for additional details. So that is the sort of first element of creating our project portfolio management system, is getting those projects under governance. Part 2 is what happens to the projects when a change needs to be made. So we can utilize the change request feature that QualiWare already gives us, and we can start using them on projects. So if I'm a project manager, or let's say I have, if I'm a larger company and I have a rep for different clients, I can come into a list of projects that belong to my client and I can create a change request. So create a change request on here. Modify order of sinks, let's say. I'm going to set myself as responsible, the PM. Description, we need an additional 2 sinks. So we already know what this change request is going to concern because we raised it right on the page. We went to project 1, you'll see in the top left corner, and we raised a change request right against it. So we're going to save. And with everything in QualiWare, I forgot to mention during the workflow, you will be getting the person who needs to take action will be receiving an email saying, hey, the director has approved this project. Please complete the environmental screening questionnaire, let's say. So and again, as a project manager, someone raised a change request against one of my projects. They've put me as the responsible on the change request, and now that's going to appear here under my change requests. So I'm going to open that up, and here it is, modify order of syncs. So just because someone says there's change request needed doesn't mean that it's automatically going to get done. The change request has its own automated workflow. So it still has to come to me, and I still have to basically give my go-ahead by moving to the implementation stage. So I'll have it in handling. So right now it's in registration. And then once it's sent to handling, I'll have my information input. Maybe I'll need some more information from the person who submitted the change request. But the key principle here is that everything being done has a certain measure of control over it. So you'll see I've created a project manager desktop and a project director desktop. So the project manager may have a bunch of different reports only related to the projects that they are responsible for. They are the project manager on. They probably won't want their desktop cluttered up with what another project manager is doing. So they'll only see the stuff that they are currently tracking. And you can enhance all that with some charts. So your projects may have risks that you can raise right against the project, and then you can keep your own risk register of all the projects that you are responsible for and all of the risks against those projects. As well as change requests, we can have these charts that maybe can help you identify a problem area. So in this case here, it's a small example. But for change requests, you'll see I have 3 in registration and 1 in handling. This lets me know if this were larger and the registration piece of the pie was getting larger and larger and larger, that signals to me that I may be missing something. So you can go into these charts, and then you can retrieve a report that's actually going to tell you which change requests are actually in registration and which are in handling. So it just signals to you visually that there may be a problem area, and then that allows you to go retrieve a report or a QRV where you can actually work on the problem and see all the ones that maybe are stuck in registration. On the project director side, they may want to see a overhead view of the business or of the projects. So project states, so they'll be able to come in here and see all the projects, who's the project manager on them, and all of their states. They'll be able to see all change requests in the system. So right now we've only raised a few of them, but they'll be able to see project clients. So this is going to be the project, who's the project manager, and also who's the client. And we can make these as detailed or as wide covering as possible. So something like this, you may have all in one report. You'd have the project, who's the project manager, what's their status, and who's the client. And again, something to just enhance this desktop or this view might be a pie chart showing all projects by client. So you'd be able to see very quickly are so many more projects being submitted by one client, and maybe that signals to you that there may be an issue with the client rep or something's going on in that area. And this is another one, just all projects and their PMs. Here I've added the risk, sort of a risk chart. So like I said, feeding in from risk management, because everything is connected, right? So we have our risk management, but what are you raising the risks against? Usually we can raise it against process, but we can also raise those against projects as well. So you can see, you can keep a risk register. So maybe a project director may want to see all the risks in the organization connected to the projects that that the organization is working on, while the project manager would want to see only their risks. So are there any questions on managing projects with a governance workflow or using change requests on projects?
Quick question. I'm just like, I see the projects you've got there are more physical, if you want to call it that. Have you tried this with IT projects, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the project can be, this is just an example. Like I just have it because I'm using physical projects because 4 of the clients or 4 of the org units inside of my repository are rental east, south, west. So they're a bit housing related. But yeah, project can be raised in IT fashion. Yeah. When you raise the project here, yeah, there's your description would change, your organization, either IT business partners.
Totally understand what you're saying. I'm just saying it'd be good to test the waters because IT projects tend to be, as Walter will probably state, we're both ex-CETA folks. You know, they can be convoluted. Projects can go away and be dormant for a long time, come back. A project can be completed but reopen and be updated. You know, things like that. So there's all kinds of scenarios, right? In the IT world, at least, probably in the physical world too, but in the IT world anyway. So I'm just wondering if you've compared it to, you know, what departments run in Clarity, for instance, right? A lot of the people use Clarity, for instance, as an example. So was just curious.
Yeah. So interesting. You mentioned sort of going dormant because we have an idea management solution here where we track ideas in the company. And yeah, you can create in the automatic flow to send something to a backlog. So you can send it or you can set it to dormant. You can even call it dormant, and you can create a report. What are all the dormant projects? And we need to bring something back. You can simply change the state and bring it back to in progress, for example.
Yeah, I didn't mean that, only just that one example. I just meant there's a lot of use cases, right? That's all I'm saying. Okay, thanks.
Okay.
I know Bruce, Anthony, I know Bruce is on the call as well. And if appropriate, share any questions that the client had when you showed this or any comments that they had.
I think there's a question with a hand up.
Yes. This is Walter Securco, formerly of CETA, currently of Shared Services Canada.
Hello, Walter.
Hi. I am... my question is a little bit more complex in that, is there any way of flagging a project other than manually in the description, which deviates from the approved enterprise architecture, right? So this is an enterprise architecture tool, QualiWare, and we have a really nice software architecture, hardware architecture, enterprise architecture, and then somebody puts in a project which just goes completely against everything that we're doing as far as the architecture is concerned, right? Or in the case of a building, they're trying to create the top floor before building the foundation. Is there any way of automation, the flagging of this as, this is ridiculous?
Having a giant siren go off?
Will a giant siren go off and say, you cannot build the top floor before building the foundation and the lower floors? Or in the case of architecture, you can't be doing this IT project because it violates the enterprise architecture that has been approved and is the latest and greatest in QualiWare.
So do you mean something automated beyond like an approval from someone?
Yeah, something beyond an approval, because let's face it, I mean, to say all projects are so complicated that sometimes the human mind just cannot grasp it. Like, you know, I remember going to a director general for approval of an enterprise architecture design. And finally, he said, I don't understand it, but if you think it's correct, I'll sign off on it. Like his mind was just blown. And my mind is sometimes blown too, right? Like this enterprise architecture is so complicated that when a project comes along, I have a difficult time deciding, is this project aligned with the architecture or not?
Right. Yeah, without looking further into it, I don't know. I don't know an answer to your question.
Okay.
I think that, something like that, Walter, I get what you're saying, but there is a human element to this too, right?
Oh yeah, the
So,
human element is really important here, and sometimes it is the only thing that will save us from ridiculous stuff. I won't mention all of the ridiculous projects created by Government of Canada, Phoenix, for example.
okay. Time out. But so Anthony, back to what Walter's point though, like aligns with maybe like Walter, we've got an approved enterprise architecture standard. Maybe when you're filling out the project, Anthony, in the tool, you would have to align it to a particular architecture or a standard or something like that.
Right. Yeah. You could. I just can't think of a way right now for an alert to go off. I'd like, what's the signifier for the alert to go out and say, hey, no, you can't do this?
Yeah. And in fact, to be honest, I understand the difficulty of doing an automated alert for something as complicated as verifying that a project aligns with an enterprise architecture. But thank you for the reply.
But thanks for the question too, Walter, because it's something to consider. It's something additional to consider. Now, I noticed that Samuel Bellon, Monsieur Bellon, you've got your hand up. Did you have a question?
Yep, I've got the list. Yep.
Kind of cutting out there.
Do you hear me?
You're cutting out.
You do, but your sound is a little bit choppy.
Oh, just give me a second here.
Mm-hmm. And then Dave, I do see you've got your hand up, and Kirill, so we'll let Sam go first.
Okay. Yeah. Do you hear me without the camera on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Much clearer.
Yeah, we do.
Okay. I think my laptop is slowly dying. So my question about the environmental questionnaire added to the project, is it like attribute you added to the project object in QualiWare, or it's something external that you access within the project interface?
No, in this case, it's essentially a dialog layout that is only available in, bring it up, which is only available in this governance state, so that the person in the project manager can fill out once it gets to this state.
Okay, perfect. But the environmental questionnaire is technically in that situation for all projects that you will create. There will be those for environmental question.
Exactly. There'll be a blank one for someone to fill out. But again, this is just an example. It can be any sort of questionnaire, any sort of, form to fill out.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Dave.
Hi, everybody.
Hey,
I know this probably comes up quite a bit, is how do you align IT projects to your architecture framework? And within government, I have the document right here from the TBS website, Treasury Board website. And the first page talks about the Government of Canada Enterprise Architecture Framework. And the first paragraph, and this is BIAT, so your business and information application technology security architectures. The Enterprise Architecture Framework is the criteria used by the Government of Canada Enterprise Architecture Review Board and the joiner departmental architecture review boards when reviewing digital initiatives to ensure their alignment with enterprise architectures across business, information, the BIATs, to ensure it supports the strategic outcomes. Now, what does that all say for you? This is the authority that each department within their architecture review boards must have the criteria, the guidelines that they're going to review the projects at each gate. There's no getting around it. And if they go to the gate, here's the guideline. This is what you have to bring and show us. Otherwise, you're non-compliant. And it's easy to show non-compliancy. You either have it or you don't have it.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't have to be something rocket science, and automated. It's all should fall under the architecture review board, departmental architecture review board.
Okay, thanks, Dave.
Yep.
Anthony, you're sharing your email
Sorry.
calendar, and
Dave was waving a paper around. I said, I want to see this, so I put.
Oh,
went back to
okay.
play.
No worries. No worries. Carol, did you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, I just had a quick comment going back to Walter's question. There are some capabilities in QualiWare that could semi-automate that process that you're talking about, Walter. You're talking about that sanity check or feasibility check on whether the project should be actually, be implemented in the first place. There is some of it, but some of it would be also addressed in 10.10 with the new QualiChat and QualiAI capabilities, because as per Kuna Brotherson, we will have the capabilities to essentially write down the question about the projects in your repository, and the system is going to give the reply back on what type of projects is that, and it's going to also will be able to give you the insights about those projects in your repository. So you would be able to have those insights and conclusions generated by the system at some point, and that will help you to make your decision whether you move forward with one project or the other.
Thank you. I think that an AI capability would actually be required to achieve that level of understanding of a project to an enterprise architecture. And I do recognize that the review boards are also critical in making sure that alignment occurs.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great.
The other part
Thanks,
I was going to mention is that the project portfolio solution that Anthony and the team have developed, it's also, keep in mind, it goes just beyond enterprise architecture. What we are showcasing here, we are showcasing the management solution that could be utilized by some of the other groups as well in your organization. We are talking about project portfolio teams. We're talking about some of the other business management or business groups that might be interested in using QualiWare. And this is a great way for you to introduce them to QualiWare without, showcasing the architecture that we all know. Some people will get the architecture. Some people will ask, well, I don't know anything about the architecture. Don't show me that. When you showcase something about project management, project portfolio management, this is a low entry way for them to understand QualiWare and how to maximize the benefit of it. So just my 2 cents on it. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, Carol.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
So
JR. Sorry, who? Was there somebody else?
That was me. That was Mike Hart. I didn't have my hand up, so I'll let
ahead,
JR go, and
No.
maybe I'll put my hand up.
No. Go ahead, please.
Well, I was just going to ask Carol, because I know that AI is coming to QualiWare. So Carol, as far as the particular questions that was asked of this program right now, would the AI that you understand coming soon to QualiWare be of relevance? And this is a question for Carol.
Yeah, so whatever is coming up in 10.10 from QualiChat standpoint, the 10.10, as per our knowledge, will be able to grasp some of the insights from your repository. So taking the number of projects you have in your system, and then you will be able to ask it all sorts of questions about your repository. It's going to give you the answer and should come up with certain conclusions and insights. So as per our preliminary, research on 1010 and the presentation by Kuno, I do strongly believe that it will be relevant to this solution.
Okay, great, thank you. JR.
Yeah, so it's in regards to the questionnaire. These are questions that are part of the project template, or are they somewhere else?
They're in a dialogue layout. So you could, through CaseMaker, put them on the actual project and make it its own dialogue. But for this example here, it's just a dialogue layout that's that just has the project set as the template, and it's commanded to come up in a certain state for a certain user.
Got it. Okay. We do questionnaires as well, and the problem is after a year or two, the client wants to go and change the questions. And like you don't dare change the questions because you have, 100 projects over the last year that have answered yes and no to the land inheritance or distribution, and then they change it. It's like, well, it's a whole new question that you really got to do and then hide the old one. So that's how we've handled it before.
Yeah.
Did you ever get on the right, you got your edit and your create change request. Have you ever gotten a double edit, or if anyone has in governance? I've put a ticket in, I didn't get a solution. I thought maybe with you doing what you've done, you've ever seen, like you've edited it and you close it and it's like, there's 2 edit buttons here.
I have gotten double edit before.
I'm going to pick on you later then.
Yeah, call me later. It wasn't recent, but I think we can backtrack and retrace our steps.
Okay, I put a ticket in on it and it's like, I'm not getting anywhere. And I just thought maybe you would know, is this a bug or is it something that I have done? And to hear you've done it as well is just awesome.
Yeah, so I remember it being something I had done.
Thank you. Okay, that's it.
Anthony, you should have left him thinking it was something he had done.
I love you too.
He's helped me too many times to leave him out like that.
I know. We got to help each other out. Okay, JR, let's follow up on that with the support ticket. We'll get Anthony to help you with that.
And I don't want to take a whole lot of time, Cecile, Bruce here. I think one of the strengths in the prototype that we really provided is it's not that we're doing it in the prototype. We know it's going to be fairly simple to take information from an existing SAP system and bringing in. So taking from the system of truth and bringing it in, we're taking from a couple of systems, bringing it in, and that's how it's being managed more so than there's a lot less. There's not a whole lot of beyond the initial intro project, just following it as it's going through, raise concerns if, contracts aren't being met when they should. So what we're providing, is that collaboration of multiple systems, bringing it in and taking away a lot of the actual tracking and work that they have to do, I think is a real strength of the prototype that we provided. And and that's where they see a lot of the value is taking a lot of that time away. People have to actually be watching, tracking, reaching out, calling, a lot of, hey, can you update, can you update with this information? So it's taking from it will be taking, if they give the approval to go, taking from a source of truth, updating the data, automatically flipping states within the project. So I think that's very attractive for it's, a lot of the manual intervention will be taken away, and it's just kind of keeping an eye on and getting at some of the more important work than updating something that, with information that, isn't always maintained very well. So I think that's the real intrigue of the prospective client on this one is providing that ability.
So it's going to be live connected to a system that is.
I wouldn't say live connected. It'll be feeds coming from, say, there's an SAP system and will be, it's called Grimace, and it'll be the solution is designed to have that information, whatever the way the integration will be, it'll probably be a feed from the source system, the system of truth into QualiWare to update that project information.
Yeah, it could be live updated daily type of
stuff. In some fashion. Yeah, it won't be a true connection, but it'll be an integration that'll be built.
Okay, great, thank you. Sounds very interesting.
And could be done with other systems. Could be done with other systems as well, in a similar fashion.
How did the client respond when they saw it?
They seemed they used the word blown away a couple of times, and we were quite proud of that fact. So we were very impressed, very happy with the reaction of today's meeting and one from 3 weeks ago. So
Yeah, the phrase "knocked it out of the park" was used several times.
yes, it was.
That's great. Good. Okay, thank you so much, Anthony. And the solution that Anthony was just discussing was developed. They were managing over 500 capital projects using an Access database. So this seems as though it's going to cut down on that overhead significantly. So that's very cool. So we have Brenda Cowie with us today. As I mentioned in the introduction, you met Brenda joined our QualiWare user group meeting last month when I was away. We invited her to come back and she kindly agreed. Brenda has been in the enterprise architecture space for a number of years. I won't give the number of years, Brenda. I'm teasing.
I just color my gray hairs, Cecile. You're braver than I am.
Around 20 years, give or take, a couple. And, you know, she's worked at a number of names that you've probably heard of. And most recently, she was with a competitor of QualiWare's. We're very lucky to have her doing a little bit of consulting with us, and she agreed to do this presentation for us today. Brenda's been responsible for commercial teams in the industry, involved in strategic partnerships with industry and integrators and analysts. She brings a lot of really good insights into what's going on in the enterprise architecture world. Having dealt with, you know, Gartner and spoken at a number of conferences over the years. So Brenda's going to talk to us about EA trends and what she sees coming up in the world and some use cases. So Brenda, I will pass things over to you.
Okay, great. Thanks for having me today, and thanks for the nice introduction, Cecile. I'm Brenda, and I've probably met some of you over some adventure or other in the last few years, but I've been in the EA space, as Cecile said, for about 20 years or so, starting out with a boutique EA consulting firm in Toronto. And I have worked with some of those software vendors that you might have heard of. So I brought BizDesign over from the Netherlands, the land of the wooden shoes, back in 2009, 2010. And worked with them for about 12 years, and then brought Value Blue over to the North American market. And as Cecile said, more recently have worked with Orbis. And, you know, in these roles, I've sold and managed some pretty large enterprise accounts like Intel and JPM Chase and Desjardins and others, and managed a lot of these vendors' largest customers to prevent churn and create strategic partnerships with consulting firms or adjacent technology organizations, and have done a lot of analyst relationship work. So in short, I've had a real privilege to peek under the hood of many organizations to see how they do or sometimes don't work. So talking to CIOs and chief architects and enterprise and business architects folks, you know, you really get a chance to witness what people are focused on, what they're challenged with on the front lines. And so I thought today we could talk a little bit about what the CloseReach team and I have seen in the marketplace in recent months in terms of strategies and popular use cases. But first, let's take a look at some, you know, the reemergence of EA and some approaches in the past that have been done and where we think we could make some improvements. So Cecile, if we could go to the next slide, that would be great. So we are really seeing the reemergence of EA. That Gartner quote there, 76% of clients are either starting, restarting, or renewing their EA practices is absolutely true. With the number of years I've been in this business, and I can see that there's some experience on the call. I think we can all say we've seen organizations that have had to reinvent their practices, or maybe due to some political agendas, you know, some practices have been disbanded, and then a couple of years later, some new leadership comes in and they start again. But in today's complex business environment, I think everyone can agree that, you know, these initiatives and strategic leadership isn't really optional anymore. It's not like, well, EA would be nice to have. It's really essential. And as organizations across industries grapple with digital disruption, geopolitical shifts, hello Trump tariffs, and rapid innovation cycles, the demand for impactful, visionary, strategic leaders to deliver real business value, real impact, and navigate these times with a focus on not just surviving, but thriving and staying ahead of the game is critical. For years, I think we've all seen a lot of focus on frameworks and standards and approaches, but not enough engagement with the stakeholders themselves, or not enough influence and engagement with the stakeholder themselves. We've seen some teams fail to connect with their business stakeholders, and with COVID and these, interesting times that we're dealing with at the moment, plus the emergence of these digital transformation programs, it has really highlighted the key importance and reemergence of enterprise architecture and business architecture as well in today's more competitive organizations. I think years and years ago, Jeannie Ross and Peter Wheel from MIT Caesar, she had a piece of research running around, and it's still true today. I think it's been updated, but even an organization with a established governance were 18% more profitable than organizations that did not have a governance program in place. So, there's really good reasons for people to get their act in order. And gone are the days of what I affectionately term EA science projects, and any and all activity really must be aligned to your organization's business goals and be seen to be really relevant and deliver business value and impact. We talk a lot about the benefits of modernizing systems, reducing legacy systems and duplicate or redundant applications. And sometimes we're asked, well, why do we need to work differently? Maybe the way we're working is a little bit antiquated, but it's still kind of doing the job. And why do we need to act proactively to ensure our business is working and minimizing reputational risk? Well, there was a great example of this in, I think it was 2022, when there was a big operational meltdown at Southwest Airlines, and they became headline news. So Cecile, if you'll go to the next slide and play our video, and could use a little humor at the end of your day. But, while we and millions of others enjoyed this humor skit, Southwest definitely did not find it funny. In fact, I presented this at a conference with a friend of mine who actually heads up the business architecture at Southwest. So I did have to apologize in front of 1,000 people to Yemi, but that's something nobody wants, right? The headlines read, Department of Transportation penalizes Southwest Airlines $140 million for that 2022 holiday meltdown. And it was 30 times larger than any other fine in DOT history, in addition to the $600 million that Southwest had to pay back to passengers. And they raised the fine so high because they really wanted to deter other airlines from failing to protect their customers during disruption. So, maybe that's a good piece of video, a good cautionary tale to use in your business case storytelling as you make your case for funding. In fact, I've shown this to a couple of CIOs and they've loved it, and I know one who's used it. So, anyways, but back to our current EA use cases. There's a bunch of them here on this slide. We don't have to read them verbatim, but what we're really seeing now is an emergence of use cases that have clear business benefits, and that, if not attended to, have really strong implications or consequences on the business. And everyone's undergoing a digital transformation of some sorts. That means different things to different people, but it usually involves an assessment of, business models, current processes, resources, and environments. And one thing we see a whole lot of in this space is APM. It is typically on the agenda or at the top of the list. Organizations, for good reason, because organizations who undertake these initiatives, for example, can see a cost savings of anywhere from 15 to 40%. I was working with a large financial services client, and they were mandated to assess 80% of their applications in the last calendar year. And so originally it was about prioritizing sort of business critical applications. That could still be an older application. Just because it's old doesn't mean it's not business critical, but also doing a health check on them. And the next stage is assigning costs, right? To see what are we spending, where are we spending it, and where can we see some savings. Another really popular use case we're seeing a lot of these days, and you guys just mentioned it previously in the questions and answer period, is compliance. And I think, David, you mentioned that that's an issue for the Treasury Board, and you guys are using the buy-in framework. Side note, I know buy-in very well, and Patrick Derday, who put that into being. So if you want a connection, I'm happy to make it there. But aside from that, a recent example of an organization who didn't have their compliance house in order just yet is Citibank, and their CEO, Jane Fraser, has had to pay out some pretty hefty fines in the last few years. In fact, Citibank has faced multiple compliance fines, including a $400 million penalty in 2020. And more recently, in 2024, they incurred a fine of $136 million for failing to address long-standing data quality, risk management, and internal control issues, as well as for failing to catch a $1.4 billion trading error. So again, these are not optional things to maybe get around to. These are pretty business critical things that people need to pay attention to. And Cecile, we'll go to the next slide, please. And we're going to talk about some core components here of what we see, what we're terming as modern EA, right? So it's not EA for the sake of EA. It's not standing around debating frameworks and, TOGAF phases, which phase are you in? But it's really about making sure you're focusing on things that are relevant to the business and organizational goals and have a real return. So as the EA market growth is accelerating, as organizations recognize its value, companies are really increasingly investing in architectural capabilities to manage complexity. Now, I know I'm a bit biased because I come from the software vendor background, but more and more, Excel, Visio, and PowerPoint, as I call it, the EVP suite, doesn't really cut it, right? It's still disconnected data. There's not enough transparency. Architecture's living in Fred's head, and then if Fred leaves the organization, well, off all that knowledge goes with him. So it's more important than ever to get this stuff down in a central repository where there's transparency and there's a little less political bias based on those decisions, and they're more data-based decisions. And really the focus needs to be on enabling a business decision-making culture that connects really good quality, continuously updated data to better support these business decisions with more integrity. It's not about boxes, lines, and arrows and pretty pictures. It's really, the focus is on business impact. And the trends on this slide highlight what folks are focusing on these days. So we'll go to the next slide, please. And as I said, from the previous slide, the next couple of slides are just going to focus on some of those use cases in a little more detail. As I said earlier, everyone is starting or restarting an EA practice. And I've had the same conversations for 20 odd years now that I'm still having today in terms of, why does your organization think they need EA? What has or hasn't happened in the past? What ghosts and skeletons are rattling around in the closet? Why didn't it work before? What needs to be different now? But aligning strategy and getting your data better connected and developing roadmaps from the as is to the future state and trying to analyze some gaps in between and course correct when you can is still just a big focus of people's work. We are seeing a focus on application initiatives and project portfolio prioritization, to really determine with more scarce resources what will have the greatest impact and provide the best business benefits. And that's where you got to focus on placing your resources and your activity. And if we could go to the next slide, thanks, Cecile. Technical debt, of course, it's the cost of prioritizing speed over long-term maintainability when you're building your software and your systems. But this slide highlights some of the key stats around the impact of technical debt. 23% of the average IT budget is spent addressing it. 42% of security vulnerabilities are found in outdated systems. So it's not just outdated duplicate applications that cost you money, but what is the associated risk that it opens up your organization to? As organizations are providing and prioritizing speed to market, technical debt just keeps accumulating over time. It's creating hidden costs and security exposures that just grow more expensive to address. And we're seeing a lot of this happening, this accumulation happening as well with, in the mergers and acquisition space. I know an organization that M&A is one of their key growth strategies, but they're really taking a hard look before, to assess if they want to acquire someone at what they've got in house and how well do they know what they have? How accurate is that information? And then how can they put things together and what is the plan for that? So proactively managing, your technical debt is really critical to controlling costs and maintaining a secure, resilient IT infrastructure, but also in terms of, well, what are your paths to growth as well? And the next slide is talking more about APM. And again, I think this is a little repetitive, but it's such a popular use case in this space. In fact, LeanIX grew their entire business on this use case, right? And then sold themselves to SAP. But a lack of governance and application sprawl is a really common challenge in many organizations. And so this initiative is just a constant. Application complexity is just so commonplace. Contributing factors, like I said, M&A, but also, just kind of a wild, wild west atmosphere and lack of governance is all too commonplace. And poor vendor management as well can not only add to costs, but really contribute to increased technical debt and lead to additional risk for a lot of folks. Another key focus for many organizations is the shift to cloud and modernization, and bringing the importance of identifying your core applications and simplifying that environment. There's a vendor out there who I have partnered with in the past, and they're pretty interesting because they kind of take APM to the next level. It's an organization called CAST, C-A-S-T, like if you broke your arm, you'd put a cast on. But CAST is interesting because they scan your application. So it's like doing a health check on your applications in a more specific way, in addition to doing kind of the enterprise architecture APM work. So interesting stuff. If you want to learn more, you can check them out. We'll go to the next slide, please. And of course, the hot topic is AI. I mean, everywhere you go, it's all about AI. And getting your data AI ready is one of the more common conversations we've been having lately, right? And it really requires a structured approach to ensure it's high quality data, it's accessible, it's aligned with your business goals. But I know of one financial services institution in Canada, and they've got a whole SWAT team on this, while they setting up AI and data management teams in parallel. Now, back to compliance. Again, we could reuse the Citibank story here, but let's talk about the newest kid on the block in terms of the compliance arena, and that's something called DORA. DORA, D-O-R-A, stands for the Digital Operations Resiliency Act, and it came into effect in January of this year. It mandates very stringent new technical requirements and rules for financial institutions and critical third-party ICT service providers. While it applies to organizations in the EU, it actually also extends to organizations here in North America that have any offices in extension to their European head office. And not only that, this regulation also stipulates that any vendors that do business with these organizations also need to be DORA compliant. So if anyone is in the compliance game, there's your moneymaker, because they all have to adhere to it. And there will be some stiff financial penalties for those that aren't compliant. And I think, David, as you said, you're either compliant or you're not. So there's no gray area there. If we could move to the next slide, please, Cecile. I'll try and be brief, guys. I know I'm keeping you from the bar or the train home. So some cost benefit analysis of architectural transformation. It's a critical investment for organizations to drive business value. Some key investment areas and expected return on investment for each are depicted on this slide. I'm not going to read them out to you. You can see them for yourself. But these kinds of investments are really critical to drive long-term business value through architectural transformation. And, we can come up with ROI calculators or estimates, but there's also those other benefits from doing these these exercises that can be brought, right? If you're working more efficiently, all the better. You can do more things in less time. Or you can redirect your architectural team really doesn't want to spend hours and hours filling out Excels, right? So let's do less admin and more strategic work and let them use their superpowers for good, as I say. But lots of storytelling. If you want, I think, I know CloseReach has some good case studies and client examples of business benefits. I'm sure they'd be thrilled to share. If we could go to the next slide, Cecile, that would be great. Thanks. Challenges, well, there's lots of them, and some of them are depicted here. Some of the more, I talk a lot with our analyst friends as well, and a lot of things they're hearing these days are, it's a skills gap, right? Especially with AI coming into play. Where do we find these people? Where do we get the expertise? So there's been a lot of reskilling and supporting teams in terms of what do we need to be doing to make sure our folks can handle these challenges in the space and these changes. Still we see cultural resistance to an enterprise architecture team. I think historically they were seen as a roadblock where you really need to be seen as a business partner and enabler. So some effective strategies I've seen in the space is, sitting your EA folks in the business or alongside the business and doing what we call ride-alongs, right? Where they're really getting to know the business and developing those relationships before they need those relationships to be in place is pretty critical. Nothing goes as smooth as we'd like, and it's great if people get to know each other and get to know how each team is working so that they can work as one team. Because really, this is, as I call it, a team sport. It's not just folks sitting in a corner drawing pictures. So complexity is also always an issue. And the name of the game is to simplify your environment so you can drive your revenues, reduce your risk, and work more seamlessly and be competitive in the market. And we will move on to the next slide. Thank you. I didn't think it would be appropriate to sit in a QualiWare user group meeting without talking about QualiWare. So you can see an example of the software platform here. I'm pretty sure all the folks on this call are users, but there might be some folks who aren't yet. In architecture, performance is critical to measure and communicate effectively with your stakeholders. It connects your technical decisions to your business outcomes, and that's really what it's all about. So you need to track a balanced set of metrics: technical performance, business results, innovation. They could include things like system availability, response times, error rates. Business metrics could include, of course, revenue, customer satisfaction, customer experience. Hello, Southwest Airlines. Cost savings and other, key KPIs. Innovation metrics could track things like new features, speed of delivery, and adoption of new technologies. And I know QualiWare has some great dashboards that can link architectural choices to these metrics and share them in a accessible, consumable way for stakeholders, and deliver the real world impact of the work. So wanted to highlight that for sure. In this next slide, it's all about future predictions, and all my analyst friends are saying AI. Have I mentioned AI? So the future of architecture will really be driven by AI, with automated design and optimization really becoming the norm. Gartner predicts that by 2026, 75% of newly developed enterprise applications will incorporate AI or ML-based models, up from less than 5% in 2023, so quite the drastic uptick. Systems will be highly adaptive, able to reconfigure themselves in real time to meet changing business needs. Systems will be what they're calling self-healing, able to automatically recover from failures without the need for human intervention. And more, enterprise architecture will really be embedded throughout the organization. Now, it might not be called enterprise architecture, but it will be enterprise architecture work, I believe. So in our last slide, as you can see, there are some key takeaways, but right now everyone we speak with really is honing in on a few things, right? It's really about optimization and doing more with less. And Carol was talking about this the other day in terms of, the government business in particular, really about, we have these people, let's upskill these people so that we can use their skill sets to our advantage and do more with your resources. Everyone's getting, really focused on getting their data better connected and socialized to surface the right insights needed to support better business decisions and doing the right things and simplifying their environments to reduce spend, increase agility, and be more efficient. And everyone, it really is true, is just talking about how do we get our data AI ready. So with that, I thank you very much for listening to me.
So your previous slide talking about the AI. Now here's the main question.
And have we mentioned AI? Yeah.
How do we keep our jobs in 2026, 2027?
The great question. I think AI is going to just change the way things are working, right? And change the focus of the work. So, ideally, it's, if you talk to Phil or Saul at Gartner, it's just about empowering architects to do more of the strategic stuff and less of the admin stuff.
So more meat, really.
Let's hope. Yeah.
Okay.
I see a hand up. Hi.
Hi, this is Walter again.
Hi, Walter.
I just wanted to add a comment about AI, and
Please.
I've been dealing with it for a while, and I agree with what you said in that it just changes how we do things. For example, it allows us to do things which we couldn't do before. So for example, my previous question on the previous presentation, how do you make sure your projects align with your enterprise architecture? Well, doing it manually is exceedingly difficult.
Yes.
Using AI to do it all of a sudden makes it possible. I guess the other thing I want to comment on is that a lot of the AI really eliminates the grunt work. So people say AI could code. Yes, AI can code, but you need to do your business requirements, your enterprise architecture. And, as a former software developer, I found writing the code was only 10% of my job. The other 90% was architecture, design, business requirements, all of that kind of stuff.
And let's not forget about those relationships that need to be in place, right?
Yes.
And being able to influence. So AI can pump out some facts, and that's great. But now what do we do with that?
Yeah. Now, I actually have a question about relationships.
Sure.
There are many aspects to relationships, and one of them is centralized architecture versus decentralized architecture, right? Do you put all the architects into one unit and then they have to communicate with all the implementers, or do you leave the central unit to be more of a repository guardian, and then the architects are actually part of the implementation teams? And I guess my issue at the moment seems to be that in a decentralized architecture team, how does the architects that reside with the implementers influence the centralized architecture team? Because to be honest, I'm having a little bit of a difficulty in doing that.
Yeah. I'd love to say, here's the cookbook, here's the recipe, but I'm going to give you that horrible consulting like answer. It depends, and I've seen various versions of this in different companies. I think a lot is determined by the leadership and how they prefer to work together, collaborate or not. I'd love to tell you it's as easy as that, but especially in, let's just say, a couple of banks I've been involved with, there are some pretty tight personal agendas, right? And so sometimes they're not wanting to share and be so transparent with other people. So I think a lot of it, if we look at the change management aspect of it, is how I always ask these questions, sometimes in a room with a closed door 101, but how are people incented to work together, right? Really, You know, what are people rewarded on, and what's going to be on their to-do list this year? Because if it's not on that list, it's probably not going to happen. It'll be a nice side project that we could get interested in for a while, but that usually ends up being short term, right?
Yeah,
So
thank you for that, because
there's a little bit of social work involved.
Yeah, I've personally been in the same organization, and we've had 3 different levels of centralization, decentralization, and I could see the benefits of each pattern,
Yeah,
but trying to get any of the patterns often to work properly requires personal relationships.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely, Walter. I think we're very like-minded there, for sure. I've also seen some organizations that started to do sort of an architectural town hall, whether you call it that or not, where both sides come together and there's really no judgment or whatever. It's just come and throw your problem into the pit, into the boxing ring, and let everyone talk about it. And sometimes it's just about sharing it, which starts to make a change, you know, as they're talking at the coffee shop or whatever. So anyway, it's a topic for a glass or a bottle of wine or scotch or something. It's sadly not easy to answer in 2 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the question, Walter.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Brenda. Much appreciated.
Pleasure.
I don't think
Thanks for having me.
we have any other questions, but you know, if you do have other things that this leads me into my next slide. If you do have other things that you'd like to see in the QualiWare user group meeting, things like the topics that the things that Brenda just discussed right now, for example, or other things that you're interested in having presented, having discussions about, please feel free to reach out. That's my pitch for everybody to contribute to the agenda. So the next meeting is going to be the 23rd of June. Rather than the 30th. We normally have the meeting on the last Monday of the month, but given that June ends on the 30th, which is the day before Canada Day, we're going to move that to the week before. So far, our agenda has using QualiWare data in Power BI reports. We did a little bit of presentation about Power BI in a previous user group meeting, but we've continued to explore and understand more about it. So we have some new information to share. And then we also hope to be able to show you a little bit about that vendor management solution demonstration that Kevin mentioned at the top of the meeting. All right, I think that's it. Thanks so much, everybody. Appreciate you joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you again in a few weeks.